Generator.
At Generator. It was raining today. So we were originally going to film in Withrow Park because Shakespeare and Ruff is. You guys are rehearsing.
Yeah.
Dress rehearsal.
Preview tonight, possibly.
We shall see.
And it's raining.
Yeah.
But you got this.
Which is a great segue into talking about lessons learned.
Yeah.
Doing site-specific work.
What show you guys were talking about?
We were discussing Macbeth: Walking Shadows, it was in a new space than we had used before in the park, but still in the park. Lots of puppets, crazy lights, a community choir.
First time in a new space in the park?
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool.
Which we've then also now this year moved to another new space.
Right. Cause why?
For aesthetic reasons. The director, Andrea Donaldson, wanted to explore this big, beautiful hill. But, of course, then when you move to a new space, all of the things that you learned from the last space, some of them apply, some of them don't apply.
Right.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, and then you have things like a giant baseball diamond that is hitting pop flies into where your audience would be. So that will be something that we will continue to figure out through the course of the run.
Exciting!
Yeah. Yeah, very exciting.
You need to build like shield guards or something. Or...
I think we might actually do that, at least for grounders.
Right. So if you're going to go see the show, you will be safe.
Yeah.
You will not get hurt.
Yeah. And give some volunteers some baseball gloves just in case.
That's adorable.
It's great.
And you guys were talking about...
We talked about our second project, which was Birth of Frankenstein, and we did that in the St. Luke's United Church, which is a great... it's still a functioning church, but it's also a great arts hub. Lots of different cultural organizations are using it. It's got a million crazy different rooms. Fujian was using it for a site-specific kind of art crawl at one time, just because it gave so many different options.
Is that Carlton and Sherburne?
Carlton and Sherburne, right across from Allen Gardens. So we were talking about our Birth of Frankenstein project, which was set in the ladies' parlor, which was just off the sanctuary. It's this great room that feels kind of Victorian and has a great big grand piano and big windows, big tables, lots of beautiful furniture. So that's where we started.
Nice.
And how about you?
This is hot chocolate, not coffee, by the way. We talked about Vitals, which was set in one of our company members, Sebastian Heinz's parents' house. The funniest, it included them moving out of their house for 6 weeks, us repainting, remodeling, them moving their artwork to a safe location, them getting kind of a redo, major, we call it the Heinz family makeover, afterwards. They were planning on doing it anyway, but I would say if they weren't, we would have been in trouble. There was dirt everywhere. They did need a makeover after the show.
Wow, yeah.
So it worked out well, but it was all about the timing for that one.
Wow.
So.
Cool.
So what have we learned?
Little bits of knowledge. I don't know. Do you want to start with weather or touring?
Weather? Yeah.
Touring.
Touring's a big one.
Yeah. This is something I've been really curious about. I mean, we have issues with touring just because of the show. It's Shakespeare. It's 6 to 9 cast members every year, which is a lot of people to try to take on the road. But Macbeth: Walking Shadows was a huge success, and we're also hungry to dig deeper into it, because with all the puppetry there was so much that we kind of learned as we were going, and of course we always want more rehearsal time. So we are attempting to figure that out. We got some grant money to rework it for an indoor venue.
Cool.
Which we'll hopefully be doing coming up shortly. But it will require basically a new rehearsal period. I mean, thankfully, it's easier going back to granting organizations saying, look, we've done this, you've supported this in the past.
This is how well it
was
went.
Successful.
Amazingly. Yeah.
It's like I think it's a great kind of thing to give to those committees to say, like, this is proven success. If you just help us a little bit more, it can go a lot further. But that being said, you know, recreating is one thing, but figuring out a way to tour it and to not lose the, I guess what I'm curious about is we won't be in the park where we had beautiful trees and could do all this great lighting stuff with the leaves and, you know, have this huge space to play in. How do we both not lose the spirit of that, but also not try to recreate that and just do like a bad indoor version
Of an outdoor show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for us, it's really about recreating it and recrafting it for the circumstances of the indoors.
Do you think it will be largely different? I mean, you kind of just answered that, but
Probably not. I don't think we'll have enough time to make it largely different.
sure.
But I think one of the big things is we'll have a lot more focus and a lot more opportunity to use design elements as part of the storytelling, whereas outdoors our design was limited and was also pre-created by Mother Nature.
Right.
So we'll be able to be a bit more specific about how those elements tell the story.
That's cool.
So this is like a step. You're going to figure out the indoor version, and then based on what you learn, we'll open up to touring, hopefully?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and try to do a really good quality filming of it so that we can include that in packages and get that out
Right.
to different venues.
Did you film the outdoor?
We did, but it's an archival, and
Right.
it's outdoors, and it's, you know, like, puppetry archivals are even worse than, like,
Oh, yeah.
normal acting archivals.
Yeah.
Wow.
Theater archivals are tough.
Yeah.
Man. Especially with site-specific theater, I find.
Absolutely.
It's garbage.
Yeah.
You're like, this is nothing.
Yeah.
It just doesn't do justice, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Because often site-specific is kind of like a 360 experience.
Yes.
Often, I think
Yes.
that's what it is.
Totally.
And so you're often settling for one vantage point, and which is true in most theater, but like a process can be very different.
Yeah,
than,
you're just filming it. But
yeah.
like again, like someone's behind, you can't film like what's happening, you know.
Yeah.
But it's also, like, the ghosts and the weird, like,
Yeah.
the energy of the air, like, you can't capture
Yeah.
that there's, like, a thunderstorm off in the distance that's creeping in, or you know,
A squirrel
the
that's
weird-
going nuts.
Yeah.
Pun intended. Yeah.
Or like whatever weird ghosts are in the church at St. Luke's
Yeah.
Yeah, which was amazing.
that you can feel when you're in the space, but
Yes. On video.
Yeah.
It's funny that we bring this up because with Vitals, I mean, we will never tour that production. It was very specific, and it's funny because we developed it that way too, right? I mean, it's possible for the show to exist in a completely different way. I think maybe like yours, perhaps a bit more so because it did rely so much, I think, on the setup of the house. I would say we will never do it again, which is cool, which is ultimately sad. Like, how do you? It's good because you're like, we created this awesome experience and it was amazing, and like the 300, I don't know, we had like 40 seats a night over the course of a month. I don't know. A lot of people saw it, but a lot of people didn't.
yeah.
And like, so it was a good experience for those people, but we'll never do it again. It's nice to have something that's fleeting, but it's also nice to like, you do all this work and create this beautiful world and this story, and this was the first for us too because we created the script kind of in conjunction with the playwright, and things developed. It's the first time we've done that because we've been doing mostly published work.
Yeah.
But it really made a difference, and I think it would be impossible to recreate.
I think I know exactly what you mean, because it's like, this is what I experience when we start to think about touring. Like, you can imagine stripping it away and doing something that would be portable and would fit into.
Yes.
But it just, you found that magic within that space. Like, we're so influenced by space that we use the quirks, we use the ghosts within the walls, we use all that stuff, and we love that stuff. And
Yes.
that's what makes the show like special for us. So the idea of then just like shifting that away and doing a kind of lesser version is really hard to do. So I totally understand what you're saying.
And special for the audience too.
Yeah. So anyone who saw that original version would be kind of Like it cheated, I guess.
I mean, I guess it's hard. We don't know that.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
I think that's the idealism that's kind of
Yeah.
running me away from touring.
Yeah.
But you guys kind of did something ingenious for Vitals, right?
It's nice of you to say. We did. We were like, we'll never do this again. So we made a film of it.
Oh,
So in a way to capture the 360 nature,
cool.
we made. It's actually pretty cool. We made I don't what it's called. Well, Steadicam is not what it is, but it was one long continuous shot. Like basically, the camera acted as an audience member and went from like out front the house and went all the way through the entire show like an audience member moving through the house in one long shot. The guy who the camera was so heavy. Anyway, it was yeah. So in a way that lives on in a different way,
Yeah.
where rather than touring, creating a film out of it. And oh my god, because like we filmed it during the run, because as soon as the show ended, we had to put the thing back, the house back. I think all the actors and Anna Clones and well, it was just one actor. Like all the actors, Catherine and all the paramedic assistants and stage manager, they did on their day off. Like it was like a 12-hour day.
Wow.
But it was worth it because I think we created this really, really cool lasting, and I think I hope it did capture some of that 360 experience.
Cool.
It didn't, I don't think it appeals to all the senses, but it does get like so yeah, that was our way of, in a way, touring or preserving the experience.
Great.
And so, how has that continued? Did that feel more like a thing for you guys to do, or has it
That's a good
had
question.
its life as a film that's
We-
been separate from it?
We had a film premiere for it 2 months after the show closed, and we did market it as anyone who didn't get a chance to see the show, because it sold out quite quickly, and we added a week, but a lot of people, I think there was a demand that wasn't met in terms of people who could see it. We did like, if you missed the show, come see the movie. And that turned into its own specific experience. This place called House of Moments on Carlaw and like Gerard, I think. It's
Cool.
really weird. We had it on 6 different screens, paramedics around. It was pretty fun.
Neat.
But it's something I think that we're now wanting to do more with. So that was an experience in of itself, but we submitted it to TIFF. Didn't get it.
I hope you're watching, Tiff.
Yeah. But I think we're thinking now, like, we're doing other projects, but now that we have it, we would like to do some more with it.
Right.
I don't know what that would be, to be honest. But we're like, we have this piece of art that we made. Let's find a way to get it out there in a certain way.
That's so cool.
Even just for my own curiosity, because we're planning on trying to do a film version
Yeah.
of Knackers, Puppet Knackers. Is what did you learn from filming that process of deciding on how to transfer it to that medium? What you include, what kinds of shots you use?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wasn't there on the day, so I can't speak fully to that. But I think what we did, because theater archivals really don't work. The intention was to really film it like a movie.
Right.
That sounds stupid. How do you do that? But it was like, and it was in one long shot. But it was really not to film an archival.
Right.
It was really not to like, this is what happened in this one, so I'm going to do it again. And we didn't have to worry about that because we're not going to do it again. It was a lot of close-ups.
Right.
And then we had someone who was like holding this heavy thing. It was like zooming in on
Right.
shit and stuff like this.
Just one camera?
One camera, yes.
How many takes did you guys do?
Well, technically one.
Wow.
Not actually. We were able to edit it together at the end to make it look like it was a continuous,
Yeah.
but it wasn't. It was many takes, but
okay.
but it was only one angle for everything. So in a way, it's a weird film. Like, and maybe that's why. So it's theaterish in the way that it is. If there's not different angles, cuts.
Yeah.
But it is in the way that it's not meant to be. It's not meant to be theatrical. It's meant to be quite filmic with close-ups and yeah, almost when Birdman was filmed.
Yeah.
A little bit like that.
Cool.
One shot, actually.
Is there anything after you saw it, you were like, damn, I wish we'd done this?
Not that I can think of right now. I think there's a billion things.
Right.
But I don't think so. Not that I can think of right now. I mean, our intention, it might have been cooler with different shots and stuff, but the intention was to do it in one take. So it was like because the audience never broke away from it, so it was still in a way to capture the experience in a way that the audience could never break away or escape it. Yeah. Not that I can think of right now.
Cool.
What are you planning for actors?
Oh my god, those puppets are amazing.
Yeah.
I need puppets.
Thank you.
It's
Thank
maybe
you.
a rude word for them. That's so cool. Bone puppets.
Yeah, I think actually the person who created the puppets was recently approached by somebody who's doing in Montreal. He's capturing a lot of people's like monologues, just doing filming people's theater monologues, and he approached Zach Fraser about doing a puppet monologue. So, and he sent me the video of it, and it's really fascinating to sort of have this little test that we didn't have to organize.
Yes.
But it's a very different thing. I hypothesize that it's a very different thing trying to capture puppetry, because it requires so much imagination that you're able to achieve as an audience member, and your brain just blurs out the rest and you start believing. But when the puppet is sort of like the same as all the background, it doesn't have the same pop. So I think it will be a lot of close-ups on the puppets.
Yeah.
And finding ways to go back and forth between wide shots where you can see the puppeteers,
Yep.
and then finding ways that you sort of just see the shoulders of the puppeteers and sort of cut out that extra face that.
Because sorry to interrupt, that face helps. It does add. Like I often find I'm watching puppet and face.
Yeah.
Like you're right, for film, there's something about focusing on one subject.
Yeah, and finding a way to keep the puppeteer in it with those wider shots to just remind the audience that yes, these are being manipulated by an actor who's having their own experience through manipulating this puppet, but that for the most part it's trying to capture what the brain would be doing of honing in on the puppet's face and trying to figure out a way to use lighting to make the eyes light up. And yeah, so
tricky.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Yeah, and we'll probably, I imagine, in the reworking of it, like spending a day or two specifically filming so that we can sort of restage or tweak the scenes so that they'll read better on film rather than just letting it run. And so I think we will do it more filming that way, like doing cuts, doing different angles.
Cool.
Yeah.
One more thing I'll add, and I think helped. Sorry.
No.
I think Vitals was helpful with the film because, and none of us need to worry about this. I don't know where you're planning on doing the indoor version, but it's helpful when the theater you're filming isn't in a theater. Because I find so many theater plays on film with the kind of in pros or with the background often look so static.
Mm-hmm.
And what's helpful is that in a way the Vitals location was more like a film set.
Right.
It was real rooms, audience went in and opened drawers and pulled out stuff. It's helpful that it was a 360 room itself rather than And so I think that was actually more like a film location in a way.
Totally.
So that helped us a lot.
So, conclusion. Instead of touring, just do a film version of your show.
Exactly.
We were kind of talking about the challenges of all these things that we're yeah, we should do that. We should take care of really great promo shots and really professional filming, archival stuff. But the thing we always run into is we're building a whole team to basically build a theater outdoors. Yes, we're not building structures, but you need people, staff to support all that. And then it's so hard to find the human resources and the money to do all of the things you should be doing?
People to look after the audience, people to help out with the bathrooms, people to help with setup, takedown, sound. Like often all the sound in our shows is either one person or a chorus of people making noises, either with their voices or with things.
Yeah, some of those.
So, and I was just saying, we always go, oh, it's not in the theater. Theaters have so many crews. There's no grid. There's no, like, I don't know. We don't need them. We don't need, and we really need a crew. Like, you need a crew more so than if you were in a theater, because it is all you. And we always go, oh, yeah. So that's one thing I think that we learn over and over again.
Yeah, often you gravitate towards site-specific because it seems cheaper,
Yeah,
or it
it's
seems
easy.
more affordable,
You don't
or
have the space.
or you can create your own rules a little bit, but you have to kind of compensate for all the luxuries that a theater space would provide you with in terms of their grids and their infrastructure and their technical resources,
Totally.
or the team. Yeah.
You have to make your own lighting, either with natural or whatever. Your own box office, your own bathrooms, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's always a lot more work. Even when you think you've figured out all the quirks of the space, I feel like the one thing I've learned is that you can guarantee there's at least a dozen or 2 dozen things that you have not thought of, that you will need to think of in the moment as they come up and be ready to respond. And also, on the flip side of that, be okay with not responding. Being like, this is too much, we actually can't solve this, so yes, the bathrooms will be locked halfway through the show and people won't be able to go to the bathroom at the end of the show. Oh well, there's a lot of like red tape to go through with the city to deal with that.
Yeah.
And you just accept it and apologize to audience members who are affected by it, and embrace that work that is bigger than you.
This kind of brings up the idea of box office, creating the experience around it. I find because of what you're describing, we've always had to try and build a sense of humor to the whole box office experience, and make it like an adventure, so people were not expecting that the bathrooms be pristine, depending on where we were doing it. Like, you have to create people get on board for the adventure that they're about to embark on, to not be precious, to be brave, and to be bold. Yeah.
To make it part of the experience.
Yeah.
It's not just the show you're watching, it's like the moment before you arrive.
Yeah.
It's when you pee, it's when or if you grab a snack during the show.
Yeah.
It's after,
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, and that's actually something we talked about a lot with Shakespeare and Ruff, is taking care of the full experience. Normally in a show, all you need to worry about is like the play that's on the stage, and the venue will take care of the experience of the audience. But we've been very conscious of, infusing it with a vibe of do it yourself, and making sure that the audience is on board with that, taking care of how they enter into the space, what time they'll show up, how to set up seating arrangements so that audiences feel taken care of, and really talk to them like human beings, so that you're in it together rather than an expectation that an audience will be taken care of top to bottom as if they're royalty, which we just cannot achieve in a site-specific venue.
But what you just said, I think what you can achieve in a site-specific venue is like everyone interacting as humans.
Yeah.
And I feel like even we go to the theater to, this is like maybe preachy, but we go to the theater to see humans and be in the same room as living, breathing people, and watch someone on stage go through what we might be going through, or what we hope we go through, what we hope we never go through. And I think this is when site-specific theater is really working. It's because it's a whole experience, and it's all these people going through it together. Often, it's getting easier, perhaps, to go into a theater like a movie, sit, enjoy, have a drink, and then go home. But again, because there's not the frills and the bells and whistles, we do have to be like, here we are, we're all in outhouses together. This scene's in an outhouse, and you're loving it, or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It requires more investment from the audience, in fact, and if you embrace that, then it creates a much more memorable experience, actually, because because what you're describing about going to a movie theater or to a normal theater with the cushy experience can be a little bit too easy, I think, and often people are talking about their day right up into the last minute or on their cell phones trying to figure out those last emails from work, and then oh, the lights are going down, okay, now I should be here. Whereas if it's a bit of an adventure on the way in, then you're putting on your portaging gear and you're getting ready and you're diving in, and literally sometimes, and you're buzzing with like, where's the show going to happen, and it creates more investment, which I think is a blessing. It often feels like it's more work than you have to when you're creating it, but if you embrace it and say, oh, this is the show, this is the experience, your audience will too.
And I think you're so right, and I think it also involves in asks more investment from us too. As creators, as performers, as producers, as directors, artistic directors, as like we have to go, okay, like when I get here for the night, like I'm going with you on this too. I'm gonna take you on this ride. Because as an actor, you're not just you can't just be, oh, I'm going to focus on my own experience as the actor, which you might do in a normal theater. You're also like, okay, I have to be a host and I have to catch that fly ball if it comes from the baseball diamond. Like you have to look after them on a whole other level.
I was going to ask, what were some things that you guys in your show were like, nailed it, that thing came speeding at me and I totally made all the right decisions around it and nailed that thing?
Wow.
Or in other words, like things that worked well on your show.
That makes sense.
We did well with using what the space had to offer. It was a new script we were writing collaboratively for the first time, and it drew a lot.
Collaboratively.
Did I get it right?
Yeah, you did.
Okay,
I was trying to collaborate. Didn't work.
And that took a lot of our focus, and then when we turned our attention out and just would like see what the space was giving us, it just kind of put us back on track. And so we let that, it's always been our kind of true north. It helps us get back on track. We let the space give us what the story it has to give. And so it just kind of put the show back on its wheels. So that was big, just realizing the magic that already existed around us rather than trying to generate it out of the page, I guess.
Yeah.
So that was a success, I think, for us.
I'd say two things. One's creative and one's a bit more producerial. One's very specific, and I don't know if this is going to be helpful. This is very specific to Vitals, but one thing that, because we were going, how do we create a site-specific show, one woman show? Like how are 30 people going to walk around a house with only one actual actor? So I think we were very good at thinking outside the box and finding new ways to bring the show to more people. So we used a lot of, all the audience had headsets. Everything was done over headset. And I think maybe you could argue then we didn't really hear the actor, but I would also argue that it allowed you to have some fun in another way, like explore parts of the house, and still experience. Every once in a while you met back up with Anna. So I think that was a cool, and whether it worked for everyone or not, but I think it was a creative way of addressing that problem. And we did one more thing with that. We kind of included 9 clones of Anna, which did allow the audience to at least see another human. Even if we didn't see the main character Anna, we saw the sides of her, the personalities of her, which allowed for more in interaction. And then producerially, don't know. On the producing side, it was the first time I think we really thought out of the box in terms of things we could get from people. So we needed a lot of stuff for the show, as you do for every show, but we didn't get a lot of money necessarily, but we got a house, for example. Like I think, Sebastian and I said this when we were talking earlier, but we were very creative in our thoughts about and in our asks. So we needed somewhere to do the show, so we asked for a house. we got into that, but or we want some food in the show, so we went after that. Very good at like kind of in-kind asks, which actually ended up really supporting the show, and maybe specifically with Vitals more than another show. And we were also good at finding people in our circles who could give that to us. Like Sebastian's in the company, and we used his parents' house. Dana, who played one of the Anna clones, she worked at Esbro Scoop, and that's how we got the ice cream. So I think we were good at clocking that help is maybe closer than you think. Think creatively, because I think that those are two things that we did.
It's actually
Say.
it's actually a part that once I embrace, I find it really fun. The how can you get help, because you have no resources most of the time, and so if you just think creatively about it, actually ends up building a bigger community around the show, and people again invest because they see how they've helped you, and people are often very happy to help as long as it's not taken for granted and appreciated. So once I clicked my head in the right direction about that treasure hunt of figuring out how to get more people involved was actually a big joy of the process.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fun.
Totally. And even just practically, like, people like to be asked for things, but not for money.
Yeah.
Right? To be able to, like, you could offer me a tub of ice cream a night or whatever.
Yeah.
Sure. And that helps me out. Like, it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bartering.
Yeah.
All right, what was a big success?
I think two things. The first was changing locations from where we had done it the year before. And the big reason for that was, and we kind of talked about it earlier with your stuff in King Carter, but the tone of the show of Macbeth was very different. It's a tragedy, and we were using puppets, which I knew required a lot more focus from the audience, so that the distractions that were a joy to witness in previous shows when it was a comedy, someone walking through or something like that, we knew that the puppets would not be able to withstand that. So we shifted it to an area of the park that was basically having a green screen of leaves behind it on its location on the top of the hill, and a lot less foot traffic. So we were able to, as much as possible, control the space to a greater extent than we had been able to the year before. And so we were able to use that space to make sure that the tone of the play and the vibe of the play was on point and where it needed to be. And the other thing was, in years before, we tried to do sound. I don't like canned sound for an outdoor space. It's personal. But, and we tried doing like the chorus of 6-7 actors singing a song, but outdoors it just gets swallowed up and feels ridiculous. And I knew that we needed music for the puppetry work, so we put together a community choir that was able to fill the space better with sound, and we used sort of giant oil drums for drums to just smack against and create a lot of sound. So really embracing the fact that the outdoor space without walls, sound would not carry in the same way that it would indoors, and embracing that and going big, even if it meant a sort of scary producer challenge to create a community choir. But like you were saying, when you start asking people and including more people in on the process, you end up creating just a bigger team, a bigger community that's invested in the show, and you end up doing marketing at the same time, which is great. So how do we, when starting a new project that's site-specific and building a new team of potentially a new director who hasn't worked site-specific or designers who haven't worked site-specific, how do you initiate that new team into the world of site-specific love making?
Yeah, so it's a challenge. We're going to talk about all team, I guess, and why it's different. Why it's different working site-specifically. So your company hires outside directors to bring in. So what have those conversations been like?
Yeah, it's been challenging. I don't know if we've totally figured this out yet. What I would love to do at the end of this summer is talk to the director that we're working with and ask her what are the things you wished you knew going into it. I think part of it is it's a funny balance of trying to articulate the aspects of working outdoors to somebody. The thing I find challenging is that people will be able to be like, yeah, I understand that. Volume is hard, lighting is hard, but often until they are in that moment in tech dealing with this stuff, they won't have really understood what kind of adjustments will need to be made. And so part of it is embracing that every new artist you bring onto it will have their own journey with learning about site-specific space, that you'll never necessarily be able to carry over all of the knowledge and experience that was invested in the last group of artists into the new one, and to just allow that to be part of the process, that an actor who might not have ever worked outdoors before will need to go through the frustrations of not being heard, of being bitten by bugs, by all this stuff. and to embrace that and take care of those people as they're going through that. Say, yes, this is part of the experience. How can I help? I can give you some bug spray right now. Now you know for tomorrow to bring sunscreen. And the stage manager will have bottles of sunscreen on hand. We have been lucky in that we've been able to keep a stage manager consistent year to year.
Oh, cool.
Through all of it. And she has been basically the pillar on which this company has stood from year to year. She's been able to hold so much of that institutional knowledge going over year to year.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And we did ask her to create sort of a production Bible for working outdoors that have been able to be passed on to each new set of crew, artists. And I think we can probably also do a better job of updating that and adding to that year after year. But we do have a document that can be passed on.
This is something we didn't think about, but stage management for site-specific is a huge...
The biggest in my
It's about the
opinion.
biggest. You need someone who has a great attitude and is approaching it as a site-specific piece of art, and is an artist in their own right. And yeah, we've spent a lot of time cultivating those relationships every time we bring someone on into a Litmus project, because they have to be ready to approach things a little differently and to be be tough, but be flexible and be an artist as much as they are also the administrative side and that part of them, but appeal to their artistry as well.
Yes, that's a good way to put it.
So that's great. How do you guys approach bringing new actors, but also or designers into the fold?
Yeah, because Mitchell directs almost 99% of our shows.
Mm-hmm.
He directed Vitals, so we do have the same director who kind of knows what it's like to be in a site-specific situation. And we also have, and I guess this has happened over the years. It didn't happen immediately, but we have a bit of a core team who's used to, and there's maybe about, I think, 5 or 6 of us as a core team, and we've gotten, I think our first show we kind of rolled up our sleeves and went, we're going to do a play in a hot kindergarten class with no AC in the middle of July, and from there have been yep, rats, yep, no bathrooms, yeah, so, but and we're slowly developing kind of a group of artists, associate artists that we've worked with, who know what it's like a little bit. Yeah. But in terms of the first time, I don't know, because I think in a way it is helpful to just look for someone like a stage manager, like the stage manager you were saying, who have a sense of play. Stage managers, designers, technical directors who have to run around and find couches, who have a sense of play and artistry, who want to be able to get their hands dirty and who are not looking to like coast through a job.
Mm-hmm.
So it even comes down to like, in a way, someone's sense of like play and adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what we look for, because there have been rats, there have been many things, break-ins, there have been this is a little wood show that I'm not saying. Because that's what I would say. And we work with a couple different stage managers. We have worked with, and we often keep bringing people back because we know what it's like. But it is important to appeal to people's kind of artistry and problem solving.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some people who don't want to do that, which is okay. Because science-specific theater is like a certain kind of thing.
One thing you said that I think is true for all independent producing,
Yeah.
but very particular to site-specific is, I like what you said about people treating it like a job. Like that's a very real part of the arts, and
Yes.
you will encounter some people who see your contract as a job to fill. And I always, like, any conversation I start with an actor or a designer or anything, it's always like trying to suss out if they're going to just treat it as a contract, and the minute rehearsal's over that they're checking out and going off. And it's been such a challenge because of what you're saying about how you've built this core,
Yes.
that's so important. And we work year round for free, like for those few months where we're actually getting paid.
Where your heart is beating.
And we put so much into it. I mean, we do it because it matters so much to us, and we thrive on it. And we try to appeal to that part of people when we're bringing in collaborators. We're like, we want you to just meet us there, meet us in that place. And if I get any sense of people just being like, okay. Yeah, but I'm going to check out, and I have this, and it's just like, you're a great person, but this is just not the right fit. It's gonna suck the life out of this project.
Yes.
And so that's very true, I think, for indie producing, because often there isn't a lot of money, there isn't. But I think it's even more true for site specific because of all the rats and the odd bathroom situations and the bug spray.
Odd dressing room
And
situations.
I think you're right that it does take an extra little bit of sussing to see how someone will respond, because I found that you can tell someone very straight up about what the conditions will be, and they'll say, yeah, no problem, I'll happily do it, and then the reality hits them and they respond differently.
Yeah.
So it I find like talking to other people and getting people's reputations is
It's huge.
a big part of
Yeah.
finding how someone will respond to all of the conditions that are normally not asked of an artist going into a contract to create a show. Even if they are like huge-hearted, wonderful artists who invest fully, some people are just not made for certain conditions.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine, but doing the extra bit of homework to try to guess how someone will respond to the conditions.
Mm-hmm.
One downside, I think I will say, of us having kind of a core group, because often we're working on a show together, like a bunch of us are, and then we bring in a couple artists that we haven't worked with before, either a stage manager, another actor, or designer, and I would almost argue that our standards have gotten too low. Like, it's just a rat, no problem, and everyone's like, so I think we could work on, like, upping the bar a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I do, yeah. I don't know. And so it's nice to have this group of people who's ready to like work for nothing and like clean up mouse poop from underneath a stage or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like truly, there has to be a happy medium too, right? Like
of course.
you can't be, and that's not what you're saying.
Yeah.
No.
Be working in inhumane, and so I think we always need to clock that too. So I think a bunch of us, especially the core or whatever, is quite the go-getters.
Yeah.
So we need to keep in mind
Of course.
other people's comfort. So that's enough for us.
Another question is, how do you deal with the specifics, perhaps of lighting, of when you're using natural light, when you're using whatever the space is. The big thing that I would say is try to spend lots of time in the space that you'll be working in before you have artists, before you have anybody else, whoever your sort of main creative director, leader person is. Just spend time in there, spend time at the hours that the show will be happening, so that you can really get a sense of all the different factors that come into play at different hours.
And every day of the week.
Yes.
On Mondays, there's a baseball game on top.
Yeah, and then the other thing is that has been huge for us is looking at, you can actually, like sunset times are mathematical, so you can actually figure out what the reference point is. If the sun goes down at 9:15 on August 6th, you can look it up and see that the sun will go down at 8:15 on September 4th. So what we've started really doing is telling our designer, don't design for the hour that you're in right now, design for the hour that will be happening at the last show of this performance. Mm-hmm. And that's been huge to sort of just get people's, and again, it's letting them experience that. So for the week before tech, I'll send out emails saying, think about this hour right now at 9:30 is actually what the lighting that you'll have to be working in to design the show. So just go outside, experience that, and keep that in your head as you go into design.
Mm-hmm. Working in the space has been everything for us. Like, we make it a priority. We almost made a mistake on Birth of Frankenstein, where we were going to do it at Art House in this beautiful music room, which was stunning, but it would have cost us more than we could have afforded to work in the space. And there was so much logistical red tape around it, and we just started to go, wait a second, we're not going to get the same magical experience because we won't have that immersion that we've been getting from working entirely in the space. So we're always willing to sacrifice the ideal in order of a look or a space in order to have more time, because we know that what we'll end up with is more integrated and more kind of organically involved with that space.
The result will be.
And I think it's really important for site specific.
I agree. We always try to make that an effort to work in this space as well.
Yeah.
And I think it helps.
It's a hard ideal, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, do
This
it.
has been so great, guys.
We did
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
We
I
are.
feel like I've learned a lot even just from this discussion.
Me too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Stolen.
Yeah.
Stolen.
Exactly.
Steal it.
Steal it.
Steal it!